The Boston Celtics just set off in their first matchup versus the Orlando Magic, and it was a riveting performance from both teams. As we saw in the first half, it was a close battle, but the Celtics were able to pull away with that second hand hotness from Derrick White, who was absolutely fantastic in this game, and what makes the NBA should be terrified of this Celtics squad with the impacts of him, Kristaps Porziņģis, and many other players on this roster. And we have the Magic host here on Celtics Digest, and for you guys as well over on Magic Digest, we're going to be doing these duo videos, breaking down everything for this series. So I want to give a huge shout out to Patrick and welcome him onto the channel. And Patrick, how you doing today, my guy?
Well, I'm not doing so great after that second half from the Orlando Magic, but I appreciate the hospitality. It's always good talking basketball, regardless of the outcome. But stings a little bit.
100%. And that's understandable. Obviously, with these games and these videos, one of us is going to be hurting a little bit after the loss, you know what I mean? But at least we get to watch some good quality basketball from some two teams that play very similarly as well, I think. So I think that's something to look forward to for the future with the Magic. But Patrick, let's get into this video and let's dive into it, as it was a wild performance that we saw from the Celtics and from the Magic take off on Easter Sunday for all that do celebrate over in the United States. The Celtics, a 103-86 victory versus the Magic, but it was a close one in the first half as the Magic did have a 1 point lead, 49-48 going in to that halftime. But the Celtics in that third quarter came out guns a-blazing, shot better from the field goal, 3-point, and free throw percentage compared to this Magic team. Also out-rebounded them. Patrick, when you look at these stats, what do you think was the key difference maker from the Magic standpoint compared to the Celtics squad?
Well, just from a team perspective, I would say the fast break points. I think they pointed it out at halftime what the difference was. I'm trying to think what it was at halftime, but at the end of the game, it's 26-4. Points off of turnovers was huge. Obviously, the Celtics didn't turn the ball over as much as the Magic, and so there's going to be a little bit of an extra edge when it comes to those fast break points and those points off turnovers. But they took care of the ball better and they took care of their chances when the Magic just weren't able to do it. Whether that was a fast break three from Peyton Pritchard or any sort of second chance opportunities when it came to Jrue Holiday, they were able to just take advantage of it all.
100%. I would agree with that. You saw within some of those matchups, even in those, I think it was like a late game steal from Derrick White in that first half as well when Jrue Holiday was playing some defense up on Paolo. You saw that, I guess, like aggressiveness of those two guards and how the Celtics were able to close in on some of those Magic offensive players. When we look at the box score from looking at these players, Jayson Tatum didn't have the greatest shooting night for the Celtics, but once again was able to do some other things as well, getting those rebounds, 14 for the Celtics alongside his 17 points. And Derrick White was that hot hand for the Celtics. 30 points, two blocks, and the Celtics are 3-0 when Derrick White has 30 plus in the playoffs. Like I mentioned, Tatum 17, 14, 4 assists. Those two guys really stood out for the Celtics here for them, as well as alongside Peyton Pritchard off the bench, getting some big shots. Jaylen Brown finding his way in Porzingis as well. For the Magic, though, Patrick, what would you like to go on detail for those players? Because Paolo and Franz Wagner were just absolutely on a heater in that first half. I think I saw a stat that they assisted or scored 48 of the 49 Magic points at that halftime, which is just crazy to see that they were able to run through themselves on a tough Boston Celtics defense.
Yeah, so two things with that. One, absolutely right. Like it was the Paulo and Franz show, and I don't even really feel like talking too much about some of the other players in a more positive light, in all honesty. And it just, unfortunately, that's all that they had. This Paulo and Franz, it's been like this all season, essentially, when both of them are out there and Jalen Suggs is out or injured, and Mo Wagner's, obviously out and injured. Those two are probably the two next guys scoring wise for the Magic. It's been Paulo and Franz and a little bit of iso ball, some stuff maybe in transition, but mainly in the half court. Those two guys can usually get to their spots and they have it going. I don't know if any of the Celtics fans watching maybe have noticed, but Franz has developed a bit of a hitch in his shot. It was kind of working for him still in the first half, but in the second half, he didn't shoot any more threes than he did. He shot six in the first half. He didn't shoot any more. And then in the second half, it kind of just sort of went to just Paulo Banchero, and he ended it with 36, 11, and 4. So he was great. He was a beast. But yeah, those two guys, if they can get to their spots, they'll have what they combine for, like what, 59 points or something like that. They're going to get theirs, just about some of the other players stepping up.
100%. I feel like that's one of the main differences with the Magic compared to the Celtics in this series is the depth for the Magic, specifically off the bench, has to be really key and intact in some of these games to kind of compete against the Celtics squad. We didn't see that in today's performance, but I would expect, the Magic in some future games as well to kind of combat against the Boston Celtics with guys like Jonathan Isaac. We saw Cole Anthony absolutely erupt in that play-in game versus the Atlanta Hawks. He's someone that I know is a known Celtics killer when the Magic, when they go up against the Celtics as well. So he's someone definitely to keep an eye on. But the main guy that I want to talk about from the Celtics was Derrick White, as he was someone that I said was going to be the MVP for this series before it kind of started. I felt like with the younger guards of Anthony Black, no Jalen Suggs, KCP maybe not being the best this season, I felt like Derrick White would get a little bit of an advantage this series. We saw him get it through in game one here versus the Magic. Now, if you're the Magic gaming, prepping and gearing up for game two, Patrick, what are some key things you're looking for your team to kind of really change going up against this Boston Celtics team?
Well, so during this game, I was texting some people. I was like, dude, it's Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner, the two best players for the Orlando Magic, dueling against Peyton Pritchard and Derrick White, and then Jrue Holiday kind of got in on the fun in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to, so there's two ways to look at this. One, you just know, even with Tatum's wrist injury or whatever ended up happening there at the like towards the end of the game, and with Jaylen Brown's knee injury, they're going to be much better and much improved. So we have to make sure that we can take their offensive, output in the next game, which is just going to be increased, and match it in some sort of way. And then obviously you want to slow down Derrick White and some of the players off the bench. That's a key. But the other way I look at it too is that this Orlando Magic bench, as much as maybe some of the Celtics fans were waiting on Tatum and waiting on Brown, this Magic team, well, and while I say they don't really get support all year, this was another level of low. We were waiting on them to improve. I think the key in the next game is to when Tatum and Brown inevitably get going, they need to make sure that Cole Anthony gets more than 10 minutes in this next game. In my opinion, I've been waiting on him to start. I think he's got to start over Corey Joseph. Corey Joseph played well at the end there, but at the end of the year, but I think it's time for Cole Anthony to be in the starting lineup. Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, is there anything more they can do offensively? Because I don't know if we're in the midst of trusting Anthony Black outside of defense. And then I think Jamal Mosley might have to open up the rotation a little bit. We saw some guys like Goga Pataze and Tristan da Silva get pretty consistent minutes all year long until about the final 5, 6 games, and they've now been shut out of that 8-man rotation. Maybe there's a spark because it's inevitable. This team is going to get cold at certain stretches. They have to cut that down from 3 minutes, or excuse me, from like 6 minutes to like 3 to 2 minutes, or else they won't win a game against the Boston Celtics.
I really like that last point you made there of kind of opening up this rotation with some of these guys because I think the Celtics kind of saw that last season when they took on the Indiana Pacers, where there were some lulls and stretches where they really were getting the much impact out of their much needed top eight guys, so they had to go a little bit deeper into the bench and find guys like O'Shea Brissett to get some runs. And I feel like a guy like Tristan da Silva, specifically on that offensive side, if he could get into like a game where he hits, 3 for 4 from 3 point range early on and just could continuously get hot for the Magic, that could be someone used as like a microwave score for them in one of their games throughout this series as well. I also like how you mentioned Cole Anthony. We talked about him. He was awesome in that play, and I think that him getting that starting role would kind of help out as well with guys collapsing on Paolo and Franz since they've been generating so much offense in this first game. Having Cole Anthony out on the 3 point line in the perimeter to get that extra shot and to get an extra opportunity if the Celtics, maybe run a little bit tighter defense on those guys in this next game could also be a key for the Magic to get some more much needed 3 point volume, specifically to kind of match the Celtics team. Because you mentioned it earlier as well, the offensive output has to be kind of matched with the Celtics team because they can match them defensively. They showed that clearly in the first half of this game. It's just that offensive punch has to come in too.
Yeah, you can't have those quarters in the third quarter if you're the Magic where you just simply cannot stop the runs, especially also on the road against the Celtics, best three-point shooting team in the NBA, or at least they made the most and they
Mhm.
attempted the most. Like that's going to come, that's going to happen. It's going to come. Like so, you have to be able to be prepared because it's not going to be that grudge match still in the NBA. But great offense beats great defense. So as much as you could say defense wins championships, like your Nico Harrison, like it's not gonna come. You're gonna need some offense, and that is potentially where they can get some of that extra offense during the game. Now, in the time that he didn't play, Cole Anthony, yeah, or the time that he did play, he played like 10 minutes in this game. He wasn't as sharp, but for sure, I definitely think he deserved more minutes when I'm looking at the box score and I'm like, how did this happen? And then Gary Harris got 14 minutes. That'll be a big thing going on as far as the Magic side is how did that man get out there on the floor for that long? But I'm curious as to what you think too of how Kristaps Porzingis played in this game. Because I feel like Isaac is like a decent matchup defensively on him. Paulo Banchero sometimes had him as like a small ball like defender on him. I'm curious. He had 5 points in this game. What is maybe going to be the attack for game two for him?
Yeah, so I think that's someone to bring up great for this series because I feel like when we brought up the MVPs for this series, mine was the Derrick White. Patrick's was Kristaps Porzingis, and when he brought it up, I thought that was a good one because it kind of has like a mismatch versus the Magic team. I feel like with Wendell Carter, Jonathan Isaac's obviously a great interior defender, but they don't really have someone to match that size, especially with Mo Wagner being out and Goga Patazzi not really playing to kind of coincide with Kristaps Porzingis. So seeing him obviously limited tonight was not a good sign. I would expect for the Celtics to kind of really open and operate with Kristaps Porzingis more as running these double big lineups. So we saw it with Al Horford and Luke Cornett when Kristaps is able to run alongside them. He can kind of be more of a power forward for the Celtics team and stretch out to the 3 point line. And in a game versus the New York Knicks earlier in the season, he had like 6 or 7 threes when being able to do that. So I think if the Celtics want to kind of abuse that matchup, specifically if the Magic, maybe get a little bit tighter on the defense at that guard position with those young guys and Anthony Black and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are able to contain Derrick White a little bit more, using Kristaps Porzingis and utilizing some double big lineups against a Magic team who, once again, has some interior defense with Jonathan Isaac and Wendell Carter, but not really, I guess, the size to, I guess, go at Kristaps Porzingis and really hinder him to all limits. I think that would be a key thing for the Celtics to use.
I think when I look at this Magic's defense, I really start to miss Jalen Suggs because I
Mm-hmm.
almost not that I wouldn't have said that just in general, but defensively, the Magic kind of were still pretty stout even without Jalen Suggs. But the Boston Celtics have almost at every point on the floor, five guys who are serious threats to score the basketball from the perimeter, driving, or they're great defenders on their own right, and they're creating offense from their defense. And we could have really used an extra perimeter defender to maybe slide all those guys down, have Anthony Black maybe on, somebody else that wasn't exactly I don't know. Like he was on Jrue Holiday for parts of this game, Derrick White, and just anything we were throwing wasn't working, and everything like that. So I think that the Magic defense could definitely have benefited from having Jalen Suggs out there and trying to prevent this Boston Celtics. But they're so talented, so talented. Like they made six more threes than the Magic, and usually I'll tell you that that probably isn't even enough to beat the Magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Off the face, like this team has won a lot of games where they have got outshot. But this Celtics team is just so talented too, like all around. It's it's not just the 3 point shot that's going to be defining.
No, I completely agree. And I think you kind of hit it all on the nose there with the Celtics team, right? Like they're so talented. And I agree with you. Having Jalen Suggs, I think, adds not only just the defensive aspect, helping and slotting a guy like Anthony Black down maybe to be even a primary guard or like Peyton Pritchard, maybe a little bit of an easier assignment than him compared to a Jrue Holiday or Derrick White. But also Jalen Suggs being involved in that starting lineup, playing up against a Derrick White would have been so much helpful in a matchup today. And as a scorer offensively, as a playmaker with Paolo and stuff like that, I truly think that this Magic team would have been set up for success. I, for one, was very high on the Magic team this year, thinking they, without getting these injuries, they were going to be, a top three, top four seed in the Eastern Conference. So I definitely would not be shocked if the Magic, after maybe not having the best postseason run because they ran into the Boston Celtics, but still having a solid season, making some key upgrades in the offseason and really setting themselves up for the future and for the next continuation with Paolo and Franz and potential a new dynasty.
Hey, no, I mean, I love the sound of that. I mean, honestly, the weaknesses and the issues with this team are going to be on full display for however many more games the series goes on, as well as
Mhm.
the strengths. You're going to know just about all you need to know about the 2024-25 Orlando Magic, as well as the Boston Celtics, or a good
Yep.
chunk of it, right? Because, assuming further on, that you really need to know to make some moves. And you feel like you get that from an 82 game stretch and then the play in. And but you're really going to know in the playoffs when you meet the defending champion Boston Celtics. You said something really interesting about the perimeter defenders. Just yeah, I definitely think Pritchard perhaps would have been an easier matchup for Anthony Black if that was a more consistent matchup. Uh, and then I also just think the offense that those guards created in this game just did not at all challenge that of the Boston Celtics guards defensively. Like, I mean, obviously
Mhm.
Jrue Holiday is a great perimeter defender, but if there was any sort of way to take advantage and wear them down as the game went on, try to take away that shooting, it wasn't going to come from the Orlando Magic scoring, through their guards and doing that way. So that was just unfortunate to see.
Yeah, it was a kind of completely different parallel of game for the Celtics. I felt like the guards, obviously Jrue Holiday and Derrick White, were those main X factors for the Celtics. The wings here for the Magic. But for Game 2, I'm expecting a little bit of a rebuttal from the Orlando Magic. They're obviously going to be trying to work on some things. The Celtics will look how to game plan and strategize around that. But the Celtics last year lost 2 of their 3 playoff games in Game 2. So Patrick, if there's any game you might win in a series, it might be this one coming up. But once again, thank you so much for coming on Celtics and Magic Digest doing this video. We're going to be having these videos coming out to you guys on these post games, breaking down the Celtics and Magic throughout this series. So if you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're on Celtics Digest, check out Patrick over on Magic Digest as well, providing some great content on a fun, interesting team in the Eastern Conference. And we'll be back with these videos as well with the other Patrick throughout the series. So we'll catch you guys in the next one. Once again, have a great rest of your day and go Boston Celtics and Orlando Magic. Peace out, everyone.